As kids head back to school, it's not uncommon to see an increase in colds and flu, especially during those first few weeks when they're exposed to new germs. Keeping both kids and parents healthy during this time is more important than ever. Joining me today to discuss how to boost your family's immunity and stay well is Dr. Dasha Leneva, ND, thanks to our show sponsor, New Roots Herbal. Dasha, it's so great to have you back.
It's so good to be back. How are you doing?
Good. And it's been a while since I've done this back to school routine, but I remember well, within the first couple of weeks, that sniffle came through the door, sometimes within the first few days. And
Mhm.
every parent's worst nightmare. So, why are kids more prone to getting sick during the initial back to school period, especially those first sort of 3 to 4 weeks?
Yeah, so there are a couple reasons for this. First, environment, right? So when kids return to school, they are suddenly in closer contact with more people, students, teachers, whoever. And the classroom is also a shared space. There's an increased risk of exposure to various viruses and bacteria there. The second reason, immature immune systems. So kids' immune systems are still developing, making them more susceptible to viruses. And of course, this exposure is important for the development of the immune system, but that's kind of a reason why they could get sick more often. And then timing. So, timing, the going back to school period, it really coincides with the start of the flu season. And this is likely because we're spending more time inside, getting less sunlight exposure, therefore less vitamin D. And then behavioral factors, right? So, kids tend to have awful hygiene. I've seen so many kids go to the bathroom, pick their nose or whatever, and just not wash their hands and go play with their toys. So I'm not sure if this sort of new generation of COVID kids are going to be different, right? Because hygiene was so emphasized during that time period, but
Right.
hygiene is definitely going to be a contributing factor. And the last reason, so stress, as we leave summer and dive back into the school routine, that can be stressful for a lot of kids because it's completely changing their routine. And as we know with anyone, whether it's adults or kids, that can weaken the immune system and make you so prone to illness. So these factors combined create this perfect storm of the likelihood of your children getting sick during the school period.
So how can parents support their children's health then through diet? Just, as parents are starting to think about what should I put in their lunchbox, this is probably a good conversation to have. So, and a reminder, I'm sure, on many things.
Yeah, so focusing on nutrient dense foods is really important to support immunity. So, tons of fruits and veggies, especially those high in vitamin C, like oranges, strawberries, and even broccoli. Getting enough lean protein. So, this is essential for the growth of the immune system. So, focusing on things like chicken, turkey, beans, chickpeas, things like that. And then hydration. So, keeping kids well hydrated with water is very helpful as well.
And if people wanted to add like a flavoring to their water, is there any that you recommend that's not too sugary?
Oh yeah, so you can even like cut up strawberries and put them in water. You'll still get that infusion of flavor. Cucumber water, more of an acquired taste, but some kids love it. And then of course, lemon water with like a touch of honey in there can be good too.
And are there any must-have supplements that can help keep kids healthy or boost their immune system right now?
Yeah, so there are supplements that can be helpful for supporting the immune system. So keep in mind that every plan should be tailored, but there are some that are specific to the immune system, like vitamin D. So this plays a critical role in modulating immune function, enhancing white blood cells, and increasing that defense of our immune system. But this is one that I do like to test before supplementing. Vitamin C is also very important, something that we talked about through our diet. But if you want a little boost, adding some vitamin C supplement can be helpful. And then probiotics. So, gut health is so closely related to immunity. We know about 70 to 80% of our immune cells are in the gut. And maintaining that healthy gut flora is really essential to maintaining a good immune system. And then if your child is already sick, something like elderberry syrup can be helpful as well to treat colds and flus. This is sort of something that's been used traditionally, but studies have shown that it shortened the duration of that cold and flu.
And just circling back to probiotics for a second, I know that we can take supplements, but are there foods that we can also be adding in to help with this?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two ways we can approach it. Number one, going for the fermented foods like kimchi, sauerkraut, kefir, things like that. Yogurt with probiotics is important. And then you can also just make sure you're having enough fiber as well to feed your own gut bacteria. So those are two places that we want to focus on.
All right, let's focus on the parents because there is nothing worse than having a kid down sick and you're sick as well. So, how can parents work towards staying healthy, especially during these really critical first weeks of school?
Yeah, so keeping the pillars of health in general is going to be important. So, prioritizing sleep, reducing stress, making sure you're having a proper diet and not just eating your kids' leftovers is going to be important. So, lots of fruits, veggies, protein, things that we've mentioned earlier, right? So, all of these typically help support good health and therefore help support good immune function. And supplements can be helpful as too. So a lot of the ones that we've talked about for the kids, like vitamin D, C, probiotics, and zinc can be very beneficial as well. If you're already sick, doing something like oil of oregano and echinacea can be helpful too. Something that I typically recommend is hot water with lemon with some manuka honey. Honey has tons of healing properties, and lemon is jam packed with vitamin C, so you really can't go wrong there. But you do have to remember that if you're giving honey to your kid, just make sure they're over a year old.
And why is that?
Yeah, so honey contains a bacteria called Clostridium in it, and it produces a toxin that can cause infant botulism. So, this is also known as floppy baby syndrome. So, for that reason, we tend to avoid it.
Okay, excellent reminder. And if I may just add in a Candace tip here,
Mhm.
I would say just stop sharing with your kids. Don't mean this in a bad way, but
Yeah.
please don't share your drinks with them. Don't take bites of their food. They can be sick before you know it, and then you obviously get sick as well. I never did that with my kids. I never shared my drinks. As soon as they took a sip of something, it was immediately theirs.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I will say I had avoided getting sick. So, what are some simple everyday practices to keep the whole family healthy?
Yeah, so these are things that we already inherently know, most importantly being wash our hands, right? So encourage frequent hand washing, make them sing the happy birthday song so they're washing them properly. And then just mention, hey, after you go to the bathroom, wash your hands. Before you eat, wash your hands. And then when you come home, go wash your hands, right? So just making that a habit. Um, Having proper sleep. So ensuring that both parents and kids get enough sleep because it's vital for that strong immune system. And then even when the colder weather rolls in, bundle up and still go outside. It's still so important to get that activity, the fresh air, and when the sun is shining, getting that sun as well.
Absolutely. And that exposure to that sunlight during the day helps them sleep better at night. So it all works together. So great
Absolutely.
tips. What should parents do if they see that their child is starting to get symptoms of a cold?
Yeah, so if your child starts to feel unwell, rest and hydration are going to be very important. Making sure they're still eating enough, things like that. And then natural remedies. Again, you can do honey for a sore throat in kids over 1 year old, steam inhalation, nasal flushes as well to ease congestion. And then if things start getting worse, go to your doctor. It doesn't hurt to get them looked at.
So those nasal sprays or nasal flushes, they're quite uncomfortable and kids probably don't love them. I mean, I know adults don't. So any tips for making that a more comfortable experience for kids?
Absolutely. So I usually recommend to do it with your kids. First, show them how it works, make sure they're nice and comfortable, make sure their mouths are open when they're doing it, because that's not very comfortable if they leave their mouth closed. But just get them to do it themselves because that'll be a lot more comfortable than you squeezing the bottle for them, right? Because then they know what to expect, they can control the flow, and you can always make it a bit of a fun activity as well.
And I noticed that you didn't mention to do a saltwater gargle, which is something my mother would have told me. So has that changed? Has the advice on a saltwater gargle changed, or is it just not as favorable anymore?
Yeah, so I'm not sure what other doctors are recommending. I typically don't reach for the salt water gargle. I like to do honey for a sore throat. And because in kids, sometimes they don't really know how to gargle properly, uh, I don't want them swallowing the water, and salt water, and things like that. So that's not one that I typically reach for, but it can definitely be helpful. And I've seen it be helpful.
All right, wonderful. Okay, Dasha, if people want to catch up with you and find out more about you, where can they go?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Dr. Dasha Leneva. So Dr. Dashaleneva.
Okay, fantastic. So, to wrap up, we've learned some great strategies today from Dr. Dasha Leneva to help keep our families healthy during the back to school season. From boosting immunity to managing stress, it's clear that taking proactive steps can make a big difference. So, if you're looking for natural ways to support your family's health, I encourage you to check out New Roots Herbal products available at a natural food health store near you. Thanks so much, Dasha.
Thanks for having me.